Last night, for the first time in almost 5 years, Conor McGregor walked back into the octagon. And in the next few minutes, I am going to tell you exactly how it ended. The real result of this fight. Every single detail of how it happened and why, but not yet. Because if I just blurt out the ending right now, you will miss the whole point. To understand how the biggest night in years fell apart the way it did, you have to understand what both of these men walked through to even get into that cage. What Conor survived. What Max survived. Two completely different roads that crashed into each other last night. So stay with me. I promise you the ending. And when we get there, it is going to hit so much harder than a spoiler ever could. This was UFC 329, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, July 11th, 2026. Conor McGregor against Max Holloway. A rematch 13 years in the making, and the money told you exactly how big this was. Dana White called it the highest-grossing gate in the entire history of the company. Not one of the biggest. The biggest ever, for one simple reason. Conor was back. But to feel the weight of that word, back, you have to remember where he disappeared to. Rewind to 2021. Conor McGregor is in the octagon with Dustin Poirier, the third fight of their trilogy, and in the final seconds of the very first round, his leg snaps. Not a cut, not a knockout, a clean break of the bone, live, on the canvas, in front of the entire world. That was the last time Conor McGregor really fought. And from that night, the strangest chapter of his career began, because the injuries would not stop. He rebuilt the leg. He was booked to return in the summer of 2024 against Michael Chandler. The fans were ready. And then, just weeks out, it collapsed again. A broken toe pulled him from the card. One more delay, one more year gone. And while he sat out, the whispers turned into a roar. That he was finished. That the money and the fame had made him soft. That the man who once tore through an entire division was never coming back. Look at the full picture. 2 world titles at the same time. A boxing match with Floyd Mayweather in front of the planet. Hundreds of millions of dollars. A whiskey empire. Movies, businesses. He already had everything a fighter is ever supposed to want. So the real question was never about his hands. It was about his hunger. When a man already has all of it, does he still have the thing that made him dangerous in the first place? That question hung over this entire event, and Conor, being Conor, answered it the only way he knows how, with noise. The press conferences were pure chaos. The stare-downs, the promos, the promises. He swore he would finish Holloway inside a round. He swore he was faster and sharper than ever. And he looked the part, lean, vicious, ready. And here is the thing. People believed him. That is his gift. The build-up worked so well that ticket demand exploded and shattered every record. Conor McGregor, at his best, is the single greatest salesman this sport has ever produced. For a few weeks, it genuinely felt like 2016 all over again. But behind the cameras, this was the hardest camp of his life, and everyone around him knew it. Rebuilding a leg that has been broken is not just about the bone healing. It is about teaching your own body to trust that leg again under a 200-pound man trying to take your head off. Every sprint, every kick, every time he loaded weight onto that side, there was a voice asking the same question. Will it hold? For years, the answer decided whether he had a career at all. He trained to bury that doubt, to convince himself the leg was as strong as it ever was. Keep that in your mind. The leg. The doubt. Because in about a minute of real fighting, that exact question was going to be answered in front of the entire world. But standing in the other corner was a man who was not buying a word of it. And his story is the exact opposite of Conor's. To understand him, you have to leave the bright lights of Las Vegas and go all the way to a small town on the west side of an island, Waianae, Hawaii. That is where Max Holloway is from. Native Hawaiian and Samoan roots, a tough community, a kid who found kickboxing in high school and never let go. He turned professional at just 18 years old, in 2010. No hype machine, no superstar entrance, just a teenager grinding his way up the hardest sport on earth. And he became something special. At 25, Max Holloway knocked out the legendary Jose Aldo to become the undisputed featherweight champion, the youngest featherweight champion in the history of the UFC. He defended that belt again and again against the best in the world. He built his name the exact opposite way Conor built his. Not with words, with rounds. Hundreds and hundreds of brutal, high-volume rounds. He earned a reputation as the man with the iron chin, the fighter you simply could not put away, who would walk through fire and just keep coming. And then, in 2024, he did the most Max Holloway thing imaginable. At UFC 300, against Justin Gaethje, one of the most dangerous knockout artists alive, Max pointed to the ground in the final seconds, invited him to stand and trade like madmen, and then knocked Gaethje out cold with 1 second left on the clock. 1 second. It is remembered as one of the greatest and most shocking knockouts in the history of the sport. That is the man Conor McGregor was walking in to face. And here is what almost nobody talked about in the build-up. For Max Holloway, this fight was personal in a way it could never be for Conor. Think about it from his side. He built one of the greatest careers this sport has ever seen. He beat legends, he set records for strikes landed that may never be broken. But sitting on his record, from all the way back in 2013, was a loss to a 25-year-old Conor McGregor. One of the very few blemishes on his entire journey. For over a decade, the loudest man in the sport got to say he beat Max Holloway. And Max never got the chance to answer. So while Conor sold the show, Max was chasing something money cannot buy. Redemption. A chance to prove that the quiet kid from Wene, who did it the hard way, finishes on top of the showman in the end. Two men, two completely different reasons to be there. One wanted the spotlight back. The other wanted the record set straight. So this rematch was never just about an old fight. It was two opposite lives colliding 13 years later. The showman against the grinder. The man who left against the man who stayed and became a legend the hard way. And to see why the history mattered so much, you have to go back to where they first met. Because they have shared a cage before. August 2013. Boston. TD Garden. Conor McGregor is 25 years old, with exactly one fight in the UFC. A loud kid from Dublin that most American fans have never even heard of. And he is not even on the main card. This is a preliminary fight. His opponent falls out injured. So in steps a quiet 21-year-old from Hawaii, on short notice to replace him. Max Holloway. Nobody in that building knew they were watching two future legends share a cage for the very first time. Conor won that night. A clear, unanimous decision. He landed a hard uppercut in the second round, took control, and won most of the fight on the ground. But here is the part almost everyone forgets. The part that makes last night feel like a ghost story. During that second round, in that exact fight, Conor McGregor tore the ACL in his knee. He tore his knee against Max Holloway, and he kept fighting anyway. He hit it. He gutted it out. He won the decision on a wrecked leg and then vanished for 11 months to rebuild it. Remember that? His knee against Holloway. Hold on to it. Because history was about to repeat itself in the cruelest possible way. And now, finally, it was here. Fight night. UFC 329. They agreed to meet at welterweight, a heavier weight than either man made his name at. Both stepped on the scale the day before and made the weight clean. No excuses left. No more broken bones in training. No more press conferences, just the walk. The lights went down. And Conor McGregor, 5 years older, 5 years richer, and supposedly 5 years hungrier, started that long walk to the octagon one more time. The noise was something you could feel in your chest. This was the exact moment the whole world had paid a record amount of money to see, and this is where I keep my promise to you. This is the ending I told you to wait for. Take a breath. From the moment that cage door closed, this fight lasted just 69 seconds. The horn sounds, and Conor does the most Conor thing imaginable. He explodes off his stool, sprints across the canvas straight at Holloway, and launches himself into the air for a flying kick. Pure spectacle. Pure aggression. The crowd absolutely erupts, and that is the exact instant that everything falls apart. As he throws that flying kick, his right knee gives out. The same side, the same knee, the same story from 13 years ago. Except this time, there is no hiding it, and no gutting it out. He lands, and immediately, something is wrong in the way he moves. He tries to keep fighting, but every single time he plants that leg, it betrays him. He slips, he goes down to the canvas, he climbs back up, he tries again. He slips again. It is genuinely painful to watch. One of the most famous athletes on the planet, on the biggest night of his comeback, unable to trust his own leg to hold his own weight. And across from him, Max Holloway does something you almost never see. He starts pointing at the referee, Mike Beltran, calling attention to the injury. He can see that Conor is hurt, and he is asking for the fight to be stopped. Let that land for a second. The opponent is the one trying to wave it off, because he refuses to win a fight like this. At 1 minute and 9 seconds of the first round, Mike Beltran steps in and stops it. Officially, Max Holloway wins by technical knockout, due to injury. 5 years of waiting, the biggest gate in company history. Millions of dollars and millions of hopes, and it was over almost before it began. Afterward, Holloway grabbed the microphone. And honestly, it was the classiest moment of the entire night, he said, and I quote, "What an absolute animal. When we were in here, I was trying to call the fight off, and he kept asking to fight on. Then he added the line that will follow this fight forever. I had him weak in the knees, I guess." And Conor McGregor, the man who charged in like a hurricane 69 seconds earlier, walked out of that octagon under his own power, but limping heavily on that right leg. No belt, no highlight reel, no war. Just the long, quiet walk back up the ramp. So look at the full circle here. 13 years ago, he tore his knee against Max Holloway, and it helped build the legend because he survived it and won anyway. Last night, he blew out that same leg against that same man, and it may have ended the comeback because this time there was no surviving it. Same opponent, same knee, two completely opposite endings, 13 years apart. That is not a script anyone would ever dare to write. Now the real questions begin, and this is where you come in. Is this the end for Conor McGregor at 38 years old, with a body that keeps betraying him at the worst possible moment? Or is this just one more setback for a man who has built his entire life on coming back from the impossible? His record now sits at 22 wins and 7 losses. His talent was never the question last night. His own body was, and here is the honest, uncomfortable truth. You cannot talk your way past a knee that will not hold. All the charisma, all the money, all the belief in the world means nothing if the leg gives out in the first minute. For the first time in his life, the thing standing between Conor McGregor and greatness was not another fighter. It was himself. So I want to know what you think. Was this just brutal bad luck, a freak injury that could happen to anyone? Or is his body finally telling him the truth that everyone else was afraid to say? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them. If this is the kind of sports story you are here for, the real ones, the full picture behind the biggest names in the game, subscribe to the podium. We are just getting started, and there is a lot more coming, because in this sport, the walkout is never really the end. It is just the setup for the next impossible comeback. And with Conor McGregor, you already know. You can never, ever count him out.